Hey Fixers, and welcome to this video where I will explain to you how you can do exception handling in one line of Python code. And this is really a niche topic. I've seen a small discussion in the official Python mailing list from 2013. So there were some proposals that to include like one line exception handling, and but basically the proposal was rejected more or less by the Python creators, but some of them liked the idea. And in this video I thought, yeah, how can we I'll create a I'll search for all the methods that are possible that help you to one-linerize the exception handling. And this is not generally recommended, but it's a fun way of improving your coding skills. And I think it's the study of Python one-liners is a very, very useful study, because it will help you understand every single line of Python code that exists in the universe. And by doing this, you will become a better coder. You will be able to understand more advanced code bases, because advanced code bases consist of multiple Python one-liners if you want. Okay, so the single line of code is the building block of any more advanced code bases. So you need to really master the single line. And if you understand the single line in Python, you have a very, very good shot of understanding the multiple line code bases and become a better, more successful coder overall. Okay, so let's dive into the problem. What do we want to accomplish? So say we have this try except block, and try except block. So try except statement consists of two blocks. The first block is the try block, and we put some code into the try block, and this code may be faulty. Okay, so there can be an error, and if there is an error, then the try block, the execution of the try block will be aborted, and Python enters the except statement, and for example it prints exception. Now in this code snippet we print the value of the variable x, which is not defined. Okay, so the variable is not defined. So if you run this, if you would run the only, so let's get rid of this one. So if we only print x without defining x and we run the code, we will get the following exception, that we will get a name error. Name x is not defined. Okay, and by using the try except statement, we basically can catch this name exception, and you see now there is no name error, but only the catched, only the execution of the except block after catching the exception. Okay, so we catch the error, the name error, and we print. We can do some our custom exception handling. So this is the idea of the try except code. And now the question is, can we write it into a single line of Python code? And so the first idea comes to mind. This is often the most straightforward idea to one-linerize stuff, is to just put it into a single line. And I mean, you can put both the try and the except blocks into a single line of code like this. So this works, but you can not write everything into a single line of code, even if it would be it wouldn't be ambiguous per se. So this could be possible, I guess. So there shouldn't be a logical problem why we cannot write try except in one single line of code, but the syntax is just not allowing it. So therefore we cannot do it, and we can't do anything about it. But we have an alternative. So we can use, I found three methods of actually compressing it into a single line of code, and they are quite ugly, because they are not Pythonic. It's most Pythonic just to write it like this in a nice little four-liner. So here, this is the most Pythonic way. So of course everything that comes now is less Pythonic than this original statement, but still it will be fun. So let's start with the first method one, using the ternary operator. So ternary operator. So the ternary operator consists of three things. So we have the onTrue statement. So it's an expression that returns an onTrue value. This is just pseudocode now. If a condition is fulfilled, else we have the onFalse expression. And now we need to, so the ternary comes from Latin, and it means three. So we have three operands. The first one is the onTrue expression, then we have the condition, which should evaluate to a Boolean value, and then we have the onFalse expression. So we just need to define them. And of course now our condition is, so maybe we start with the onTrue value. OnTrue is print x. So this should be our try statement. Okay, so we want to print x if this is possible, and if this is not possible, then we want to fall back to our on false expression, and our on false expression in this case should be print exception. Now we only need to replace the condition. So what is the condition here? And to see the condition, let's go into an interactive code shell. There's a Python built-in function called dir, D-I-R-R, and if you run it, you see all the names that are defined in our namespace. And namespace is, you can think of it as a list of names that are all names that are currently defined in your Python shell, variable names, function names, anything. And you see that there are only some default names with this double underscores, or in short dunders, defined, but there are not any custom names. So for example, if you would define a variable called hello, it's an integer 12, for example, and now we print our namespace, then you see that the variable name hello exists in the namespace. Okay, and this helps us to find to check if the variable x is defined in the namespace or not. Because I mean, we cannot do something like this, x equals none or so, yeah, because this just doesn't work. X is not defined, so this will throw an exception just like the previous code, and then we will just have the exception, but we won't have our try catch statement. We wouldn't have caught the exception, so this doesn't work. But we can do the following: we can check x in our in our namespace basically. And now we don't have to call it x, but we call it string x, because you see these are some string values in our namespace. The namespace is a list of string values that are all variable names defined. So we can basically, our first method just checks the condition: is the name x defined in the namespace, x in dir. Then we print our x statement, otherwise we print the exception. So, and I think this is a nice little statement that basically is, in this case, it's equivalent, so it runs the same code as the original one, and it works quite well. So this would be our first method, and I think it's also readable and understandable, and it uses a few advanced techniques like the namespace. But it's, I mean, a good Python coder will usually have no problem understanding this code. Good. Then the second way I found is the exec method. So if I'm out of options because you know, I've written this book Python one-liners, so I've rewritten a lot of code snippets as one-liners, and a lot of complicated algorithms like quicksort and data science algorithms like prime number generation or so. You can do all kinds of stuff in a single line of code, and usually if I'm out of options, if I don't see another way of one-linerize a given code snippet, then I just use the exec function. And the exec function, it takes a string value, and then it interprets this string as like a source code, and then it just runs the source code. So therefore it's easy. I mean, you can express any multi-line statement in a single line of code by just using the new line character. So now we just have to define basically the try except statement in a single line of code. So now we can do the following: we can call try, so we print x, then we have a new line using the new line character, then we have the except statement, and we print exception. So this is exactly the code. This is almost exactly this code, this original code, but just using a new line character rather than a new line itself in the code. So we don't have a new line in our code, but we have a new line character, but it's semantically equivalent, and yeah, we put everything. We don't add a new line. We basically use this exact statement here, and we compressed it into a single line of code. So this works perfectly, and if you run it, the exec function just runs this code snippet as it would be a file content or so. And so therefore we can do some even advanced exception handling in a single line of code. If you run this, you see that all of them have the same output exception, because the variable x is not defined. So if you would define the variable x here, like we define x to 2, then we would expect that the output of all these functions is 2. And this is in fact the case. You see now the output of all functions is 2. So therefore exception handling works like this. Okay, so it's a conditional exception handling. Okay, so this is our second method. So let's dive into the third method. The third method uses the context lib import suppress. So it uses the suppress function from the context lib library, and you could argue that now it's already not a one-liner because I have imported something, but we could also write it like this with this semicolon operator and put everything into a single line of code. So this would work, but now I will just, for the sake of clarity, write it in 2 lines. So we can do we can call with suppress. Now we pass the name arrow into this. So name arrow is already predefined in Python. And we pass the name arrow, so we want to suppress the name arrow. If the name arrow occurs, we just want to suppress it. And we open a with statement. The with statement, now basically the with statement defines 2 things, an on enter and an on exit method. So an enter or dunder enter method and dunder exit method. And if there is an arrow within the with statement, then it will call the exit method on the object you define in the with statement. Okay, and this can be any object that defines these 2 methods, like an enter or exit method. And in this case it defines a context manager, which is the return value of this suppress function, a context manager, and this context manager defines the on exit and the on enter methods. So therefore we can use it within a with statement. And the with statement, then the with block, it tries to execute the with block. If the with block doesn't execute, then it will go into the exit method defined by this context manager, and the exit method will just suppress the name arrow. So it will catch the name arrow basically and suppress it, just ignore it. So therefore this method is suitable if you actually don't want to enter the except block. Yeah, so you want to do some exception handling, but you don't want to enter the except block. You just want to try to execute a code snippet. If it doesn't work, then just ignore it. Okay, and now this is 3 lines, but of course you can the with statement, it's just a indentation block, so you can write it in a single line of code if you have just a flat non-hierarchical structure like this. And if you want to one-linerize everything, you can of course do it by using the semicolon. Okay, so this is how it basically the third method works. So let's run this and see whether it works. Let's make it like this first. Okay, so you see now the exception is not executed because we don't catch the exception. But if you now define a variable named 2, so now the expression is not entered. Now we should have 4 outputs. Okay, so we see we have only 3 outputs for the original method and the first 2 methods. We have an exception output, but if there's an exception in our third method, then there's no output. So therefore we don't see the 4th output here. We see the output only if it runs through. Okay, so if the with statement runs through, and this is basically happening here in the second execution example here I have. Okay, so these are the main methods. If you want to actually master these kind of one-liners, then check out my email list where I have a lot of free email courses. So this is the biggest Python email list that offers free courses on the email list itself. So I send you a lot of video and email courses into your inbox, so you receive these email courses on your smartphone or on your computer, wherever you consume emails, and you will become a better coder over time. And I have a lot of different courses. As I said, it's the largest computer science academy in the Python space. That also uses email technology to deliver the content to you, so that you don't have to go there and get the content. And of course, the email academy is free, so check it out. I will give a link in the description below. And yeah, thanks for watching this video, and see you in the next video. Bye.